Hello, everybody, and welcome to our newest episode of Kill of the Week. I am your host, Brandon, along with my cohorts. Just going to kind of rapid fire through our squares here. We got our producer, Jill. We have our cameraman, Chris. And we have our production crew and actors, Joss and Jess. And today we are joined by a very special guest that you might know him as producer Joe from the Post Mortem Podcast, as well as the new movie hitting on, on Hulu now, The Inheritance?
That's right.
Yeah, so Joe, welcome to, I'm going to steal it from Mick. Welcome to the slab. Fuck it.
I feel like he has that copywritten, Brandon. Uh-oh. Watch out. Mick Garris is coming for you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us what kill you wanted to talk about today and why you chose it?
Okay, so I'm a huge horror fan. Have been for most of my life since I was very little. But I don't think about horror movies the way I think that a lot of people do. So when you asked me to be on the show, I'm like, I'm a terrible guest for this because I remember the feeling of a scare more so than how people get killed, right? I think because I am a screenwriter, so I think in these beats emotionally, thematically, and the last thing is usually the kill, right? It's more about creating a feeling and a vibe and conveying emotion. And so, but when you asked me to do Kill of the Week, I immediately thought of this specific kill because it is so tied into the character. And I think it's because the movie, which is called Sorority Row from 2009, a classic, which I would be surprised maybe if anyone on this call had seen before I pitched this movie.
This was my first watch.
Okay. Anyone else's second watch, third watch?
I had seen it before.
Oh, you
I think I saw it before too, yeah.
Awesome. This is probably my fourth watch now. But this kill's always stuck out at me, and it's always kind of been like the kill that stuck out at me the most in this movie too. Again, it was written by kind of long-time horror screenwriters now, Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger, who also went on to write Piranha movies and Saw movies, and they're just really great screenwriters. And I think the thing that I like about this kill so much from Sorority Row is it's so tied to character. It's literally a sorority sister whose nickname is Chugs because she has a drinking problem, and they kill her by way of her drinking problem. And to me, that is the best kind of kill because not only is it memorable, it's graphic, it's grisly, but it's so tied to who she is and who she is in the story. And that's what I think makes it stand out in my mind more than just some odd Friday the 13th kill or Nightmare on Elm Street kill.
Yeah, that's true. And it was definitely very, very effective because like the brutality of, I think it's the most brutal kill in this entire movie.
Yeah, I think so too. It's probably the most memorable thing. I remember when I first met Josh and Pete, they were actually potentially going to be hired to rewrite me on a movie. It did not come to pass, but I met them at that meeting, and I can't remember if it was before we went in or after, but I basically was like, I love Sorority Row, and I think that movie is so much fun. I think it's basically a modern retelling of 15-year-old retelling of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I just waxed on about this one kill in particular. And they seem to really at least tolerate it. But it's been cool. I've become friendly with them over the years, especially with Josh. We've hung out a couple times. I went to an early screening of Spiral, which was fun. So I've been kind of in and around them for a while now, and They didn't end up getting that job though. I've always felt a little bad that I ended up staying on as the writer and finishing that movie. It's that one there, Soulmates.
There you go.
Yeah, which is kind of Saw meets online dating. So you can see why they were being considered as some of the writers, given the fact that they've written 3 of the Saw movies now.
Yeah, they did Jigsaw, Spiral, and Saw X.
Yeah, and Saw X I think is the best one since the first one probably. So they're good at writing Saw movies for sure.
Yeah, they seem to have a thing with torture, especially with how these kills were done throughout the entire movie, and especially because like with this kill in general seemed to have hurt the most because like you had the girl got shot in the face with a flare, they got the tire spike through the mouth, a lot of oral kills. Talk to Josh about what is his mouth fixation, because there's a lot of mouth stuff.
Brandon, you keep doing mouth stuff. That's more you.
I wrote one movie with a lot of mouth stuff.
They're doing mouth stuff. They're doing mouth stuff over there.
Maybe you have a couple things in common. Who knows?
Maybe. But this one, like, you actually had like struggle, because when he first shoves that fucking bottle down there, she's still alive and kind of like collecting what the hell is actually happening. And if I remember correctly, she's like the first one to see kind of the figure before death, I think, before she gets killed.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're the first person to get like a brutality kill to where she's still alive. The first like not reveal, but like when you see the killer in the trench coat and all that stuff. So yeah, I think like this kill has a lot of those instances to see like what you're in store for. Which is pretty
absolutely.
Cool.
And I don't know if it makes sense to bring it up on this show or not, but Brandon and I actually spent a lovely week together in France last fall. We were at a screenwriting retreat together, and we talked story for basically a whole week.
Yeah.
And I think probably when you watched this kill, you're probably like, oh, now everything Joe is saying kind of makes sense, right?
True. Yeah. I mean, that's been with like everything that I've watched after.
Really?
Just like in terms of like story versus plot, and a lot of that of like you see what makes sense for everything. Now this one is a little tongue in cheek for the fact that her name is, like you said, Chugs, and it's literally chugs a bottle to death. Yes. With it little hitting the head on the nail there. But yeah, like it definitely, everything has to have a meaning, no matter how subtle to it, and that really works, especially because the lead up to this is her getting pills. So
yeah, that is a fun thing. Is like they basically set her up as a character who is just a wreck, right? Like, and she's clearly got a drinking problem. She's been running through a lot of boys. We even see her try to hook up with a boy early in the movie, and it doesn't work out, and she kind of throws him away in disgust. And then we see her go to her therapist, who jokingly someone says, hey, you should hook up with him and get some pills from him. And she actually is hooking up with him to get pills from him. So they do a lot of really good legwork with her in a really short period of time to say this character is a mess, and she's got pill problems, she's got drinking problems, and so of course she gets killed by her vice. It's just a really good encapsulation of character, story, and all of that kind of building to create a memorable set piece.
Yeah. And with that, I want to go into like first reactions from everybody, kind of going around the room. Like, Jess, I'm going to start with you. Like, your first time, like, you've seen the movie before and like rewatching it now. Like, do you remember, or like, did you have the same reaction your first time seeing this kill again? And
yeah, it was actually watching the clip of the kill that I was like, wait, I think I've seen this before. Just it was like a physical reaction. Like, I felt like it was just feeling like that bottle was being shoved down your own throat. Because again, it's just super brutal. I think there's a lot of ways that they could pick any of her vices and went with it, but they picked one which was the most brutal for the first kill of the killer. So it was just definitely elicited a reaction and like physical response just from seeing it play out. And then I was like, I went back and watched the whole film again, well, most of it again, because I knew I had seen it before.
Jill, how about you? What was your first reaction with this?
It's rare that I actually have a physical reaction in movies anymore, and I almost threw up watching this kill. It was brutal. I think it was the buildup of everything leading up to the actual kill, but it was also she didn't die instantly, and it was the gulping sounds of her body still processing the liquid going in, and then like the bottle going in further and further. It happened multiple times, so it's like we know what it's. You react to nails on a chalkboard because you can imagine what that sounds like. We all know what it's like to feel like food stuck in your throat and you can't get it out. So you start to connect to this kill because it's something you can somewhat feel like what it's going to feel like to have something stuck, and then it just keeps going. And it was kind of amazing to have something where I'm almost like throwing up. I'm like, this is horrendous, and I loved it. And it was, oh God, it's horrible. I was like, no wonder you picked this. Like, this is fucking nuts. It was great.
How about you, Chris?
Oh man, for me it was just the speed. Like I knew it was one of it's like the other like scenes in the movie where you see it coming. They showed like the pool of blood, and it's gonna like how it's coming soon, but you don't know how exactly. What creative way is she gonna? What interesting thing manner of death are you gonna see? And the bottle going into it didn't surprise me as much as it was like, of course, that's perfect. It was the most satisfying kill I've seen in a long time. But I think specifically too I saw was the blood effects coming through the bottle was just like, it was a perfect use of just like a little bit of blood, like carrying it didn't have to be over the top. It was just right. It was like that little amount, like extreme close up, and it was just fantastic. I mean, I was like, I almost clapped. I was watching it by myself, but I almost clapped at the TV. Honestly, I might have given it a little golf clap or something. But
Nice. And Josh, for you?
So seeing that kill again brought back like a traumatizing memory, because when it came out in 2009. It was my first year in college, so that literally discouraged me from doing keg stands until my junior year. I will not drink upside down. I just won't. And then seeing it again, I'm like, now it reminds me of Mortal Kombat with like the fatality type kills when it's just I'm like, good times. Good time. It was enjoyable though. I will say that.
I feel like the whole thing could have been avoided if she was just drinking out of like a can or like a glass or something, but it had to be that extra long bottle.
Oh yeah,
and like perfectly shaped to just like destroy her brainstem.
It's funny because the movie was, like, I would say, only really modestly successful. Like, I was surprised that any of you had actually seen it from back in 2009. I'm happy that you did, because I was there. But I feel like this kill got repurposed more recently in a more widely seen movie called Freaky, which was the Freaky Friday the 13th movie with Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton that came out a couple of years ago.
They shoved the bottle down someone's throat in a Vince Vaughn movie?
Yeah, you should probably watch this movie. But yeah, it's basically the same kill, but I feel like they got away with it because this movie was not so widely seen. Like, they put their own like couple touches on it. It's definitely a little bit bloodier than this one. But I and with all due respect to Christopher Landon, because I think he's a great director, but I think the execution of the kill was better in this version. But I'm also biased because it was the first one I saw. So
that's fair. We all have a special place in our hearts.
Bottle down the throat kills.
Yeah. I mean, like, unconsciously, we kind of did a similar thing, not with a bottle in a throat, but with a demon hand where we had like speaking of oral fixations, we had a fisting scene through someone's mouth, more Dead Alive-ish than I would say this one, but kind of reminiscent. This can go into like how they did it. Like, we had effects. Like, I kind of found the effects text that were on it, like the special effects guys. And I'm gonna completely butcher this guy's name. Michael DiPatiro. He did stuff on Super 8. He did stuff on The Kingdom, and he was working with Heath Hood, who did everything for the new Halloween movies. He worked on Preacher, and then Ryan and Steve Riley, who also did Super 8 and American Sniper. They kind of worked together on a lot of stuff, and which is pretty like a pretty cool thing with how they did it. Like, they obviously did like a mold casting of the actress Margot Harshman's face, and probably just did it from like the jowl down, because like it was obviously like her top half like reacting with the eyes were there. We did something similar, and I can actually show it since it makes sense. We did a similar thing of Jess for our movie Aphasia, where we completely molded her head, made a complete fake head of hers. Jess, how was that experience?
The getting molded, or just like being able to see my face as a mold is weird.
All of it, yeah. It's like she's here with me. But like, kind of very similar to the fact that like they were able to kind of use like the nose down, and with special cuts, they had the mouth completely open and things like that, which was like really cool to see. It's really cool when you see practical effects in anything. And I feel like 2009 was kind of like early to mid 2000s, like that cutoff between practical and digital.
Right on the cusp of becoming more digital. Yeah.
So like when I first watched it, I was like so stoked to see like, cool. You can see that it's a molded head, but it doesn't take anything away from it, because the lying effect of the kill is there, and you kind of forget that it's all fake for 5 seconds.
Absolutely, it's visceral.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it certainly wouldn't have looked as good if they did it with CGI. Even for the time, they had decent enough technology, but like in order to do that, you'd have to stretch the mouth in a weird way that would make the digital model like seem, it would make it seem more obvious. And I feel like with the mold, it was more believable in a sense. Like I mean, I could kind of tell this is something unbelievable, but it didn't look fake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Like I felt her pain. Like everyone had that guttural physical reaction. That's the beauty of practical effects, because it's there. You're physically seeing it, and you're, especially like when you're on set with it, you're interacting with it. It's amazing. You can't beat it.
Again, I do think like as good as the kill is itself, I think it's the combination of all of the details around Chugs, who she is, why she's there, set up the payoff. I think it's more memorable than most kills because it's got all of that great writing behind it too.
But also too, like this movie as a whole did a really good job at making you want these people to just die. There is not one likable human in this film that, like, I'm watching like the opening credits when it's doing those like oneers and it's going through everybody.
That oneer is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's kind of a real surprise. Honestly, the filmmaking is pretty stellar throughout. Like it looks really good. And it's really well shot, really well covered. That water is impressive, and it's so odd because I feel like I do this every time I rewatch this movie. I look up the director and I'm like, he never really took off after this, which is such a surprise because I think the filmmaking is pretty strong. But I don't know if I agree. I think the main character, I think, which is funny, her name is escaping me. But I think
Brianna Evigan or Evigan.
Yes,
I know her from Devil's Carnival, so I was already.
I know her from Step Up. But I think she's she's likable enough. She's the one you hang your hat on, but it's not like I know what you did last time, where the characters were. I think you were much more engaged with them.
Yeah.
But I also, that's a funny movie too, because all those actors in that movie I have such a strong relationship with from other things too, right? So I don't know how much of that is carrying over into that movie as well. Whereas these actresses I'm more unfamiliar with most of them. So there's more of them too. That's always a really hard thing when you're writing a screenplay. Is when the more characters you have, the harder it is to get the audience on board with empathizing with them.
Yeah, they were all kind of very similar. A lot of them felt very similar. It was kind of hard to tell them apart. With like, I would look away for 5 seconds and then hear a voice and not know who the hell was actually talking. But the one redeemable character for me, fucking Carrie Fisher.
Oh yeah,
she came out of nowhere. I had no idea that she was in this movie. That when I was watching it and I saw her introduction during the oneer, I had to like look it up. I was like, is that fucking Carrie Fisher?
Yeah, it's cool, right? It's fun. I mean, look, there's a great lineage of sorority moms in horror movies being awesome, like all the way back to Black Christmas. So I feel like she is very much in that lineage. And Carrie Fisher was such a great screenwriter herself, like a notorious punch-up script doctor, that I'm sure she had some say in what she did and said, and I think it came across wonderfully because she's just awesome in this movie.
But yeah, I do feel like, I don't know, I couldn't relate to any of these guys. I think I Know What You Did Last Summer had better character development in that sense of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I had a hard time relating to this movie in general because I didn't go to college. So, like, seeing that whole...
That was kind of accurate, to be honest.
Like
everything that you saw in that film happened in college. Yeah.
So,
I mean, not when you go to art school, it doesn't.
Even the depths.
So wait, so was everybody in a, like, fraternity or sorority? Like,
I was not. So...
I was honorary basically, so I was always over there, but that's because I was tapped in with the athletes, so I went everywhere.
How about you, Jess?
We didn't have Greek life.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, mine used to have it, but they got rid of it like before my time. But there were trampolines and feather pillows.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. It was pretty sweet.
And we clearly didn't have that in art school, so no, I don't know any of that.
That is too bad.
Yeah. It's good times.
Yeah. I had plenty of bitchy girls. Like, I had that side covered. We just didn't have the Greek side, but plenty of bitchy girls. We had that. So.
Well, there you go. So that was true. That was true to life then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Also,
do you think this kill hits the same if it's not the killer's first kill in the movie?
That's a good question. I mean, it definitely sets the table and it sets the stakes, right? So it feels like a good kill for those purposes. I don't know. I mean, again, because it's such a character-based kill, I kind of feel like you could slide it around. And I do think it is just objectively the best kill in the movie. So I want to believe it has just as much power further down, but I think where they placed it was probably the right place for it too.
It was definitely like it was like the hook. It's like, oh, like, if this is how brutal this one is, I have to hang in there and see how much crazier it can get.
There's always a little bit of trouble when so I produced a horror movie called Nightmare Cinema, which is a horror anthology, and there was a lot of talk as we were developing the script, and then when we shot the movie, when we cut the movie, about what order to put the various stories in the anthology and the feature structure. And we really kick off with a banger in that movie, which is this kind of cabin in the woods slasher segment. And it's good and it's bad because it starts with so much energy and it's so fun and it has such a great twist that in a way it's like, yes, it starts the movie and you're like, this is awesome. But the other segments are so different and they don't have quite the same level of like fun, I guess is maybe the right word. They all have fun in their own ways. That's the wrong word. They don't have the same level of like grab you by the shoulders and shake you awake, right? And so is that to the movie's detriment? Like, I don't know, whatever. That's for history to decide, I suppose. But
but I think with Nightmare Cinema, though, you guys with that movie, each segment was a different culture too. Like you had, like it was all different directors from all around the world, right?
For some of them, yeah. There was two Americans, a Brit, which is hard to say that's a different culture, but
I think the taste is different.
And a Cuban filmmaker.
But I think the taste hits on all of those, where it might not be gripping for, let's say, an American audience, but like the Japanese culture would watch that one, or the Cuban one specifically, because that was the church one, right?
No. So it's funny that you would think that. You would think that. No, the Cuban director Alejandro Brugués, who was also the director of my movie that you referenced earlier, that's on Hulu, The Inheritance. He directed the opening segment.
Okay.
Section. The segment you're referring to in the Catholic Church, which is it has a lot of a very heavily leans Hispanic in the cast. In fact, I think it might be entirely Hispanic. That was directed by our Japanese filmmaker.
Oh, okay.
We were just all over the place.
Yeah, moot my point then. Okay, there we go.
But that one has a lot of crazy stuff happening in it too, and we kind of tent-poled the movie with that. And we put that in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. So we started with a bang. We kind of had a little bit of a quieter segment, and then we hit a bigger segment, then a quieter segment. And then Mix has like some big action moments in it too. So I guess maybe we did kind of tentpole it, but I don't think it ever quite reached the same level of bonkersness as the first one. Mm-hmm. So in a weird way, it has the same structure. It's like you start on a high and you hope people ride that high the whole way through, as opposed to maybe realizing that it dips a little. You know?
Yeah, that's fair. To kind of segue a little bit with this, looking back at my notes, I found the fucking note I was looking for. This was based off of a Mark Roseman movie called The House on Sorority Row from the 80s. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't see it. Has anyone seen or heard of this movie?
No, this is a fact I discovered last night when I was looking at the writing credits, and I said, "Who is that person?"
Okay. Yeah, because like when I was looking at it, I was like, what is this like House of Sorority Row in like parentheses? Like I'm not understanding that. And yeah, it was like its own little thing.
Well, it also had an alternate title originally too, which I think was Seven Sisters.
Yes. Yeah.
So in a weird way, we said this is a ripoff of I Know What You Did Last Summer, but was I Know What You Did Last Summer a ripoff of House of Sorority Row?
True, it might have been, yeah.
Like a good project for you guys to go discover on your podcast.
Yeah, do a deep dive into the sorority worlds.
Yeah.
Ugh. World I don't want to be in.
Brandon's favorite.
Yeah. See, that's what I like about horror movies. They invest you into invest you in characters that you want to watch die. That was the beauty of Friday the 13th for me. Jason killed everyone I hated. And so I'd root for the guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like with this one, I see where the joke was funny. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna trick this kid to date rape his girlfriend for some fucking reason, and it just kind of went south from there.
Yeah. It's pretty messed up. It's a pretty. I think the let's put it this way. I Know What You Did Last Summer has a smoother, cleaner entry point into we need to dispose of this body, I think. But I do think once this movie hits its groove of we have this secret to keep and it's unraveling and who is pulling at that string, I think this movie hits a nice groove.
Yeah. It definitely flowed. The pacing was done really well.
I agree.
I was waiting on everybody to die. I was really hoping for that ending. Like, I did not like. I liked and I didn't like the ending when everything's on fire and they have that slow-mo walk out of just like Charlie's Angels type shit.
It's I will say I've seen the movie a couple times now, and every single time I forget who the killer is and why they killed everyone. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
it's definitely a luxury.
Yeah, my wife walked out while I was rewatching it last night, and she's like, "Why did they kill everyone again?" And I was like, "I don't remember yet. I'll tell you when it's over."
I think I already forgot.
It was because the guys.
Well, you don't want to spoil it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It
came out 2009. People should have seen it.
People should have seen it, but half the people on this call hadn't. So
true.
It is in the giallo Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer. It relies on the whodunit, so to give that away is just not fair to a movie that is literally like hinges on that element.
Yeah.
You know, I would say that it's always important to have a movie that you want to go back and keep rewatching because you find something that's happening in the background and keeps bringing you back. But it is concerning that you guys don't remember why it happened.
Yeah, I didn't remember either.
That's a problem. You keep rewatching it, and it's like the first time. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
It's
what
like,
is it?
it's
what
like
is it doing that it's losing? Like it's not holding on.
It's like 50 First Dates. They have to keep watching The Sixth Sense every night.
Because again, that's minor details. At that point in the movie, like you're happy that these people are being killed, so it's just minor details.
I mean,
think it plays into the fact because we had so many characters that it was hard to keep track of. Like there was a lot of moving parts.
In its defense, I also feel the same way about I Know What You Did Last Summer. If you ask me right now who the killer was and why, I don't exactly remember.
So you didn't just watch it last night. You didn't just watch it. I Know You Did This Summer last night.
No, I did not watch it. I watched the 2009 version.
It's true.
Anyway,
I actually felt bad when she died. I know that we wanted them all to die, but there's that moment when like you don't see him in the bed and you're just like you have this sense of relief. You're like, you know she's gonna die eventually, but she's relaxing and you have this build up right before she dies. Like I actually feel bad for her for a second.
I like Chugs. I think she's a fun character. Yeah, it's
I mean,
we did something very similar in The Inheritance. We had kind of a fun influencer type character that Peyton List plays, and this isn't much of a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but she's the first to go, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, she was the best character. Why did you kill her off first?" And it's like that's why you have to kill them off first. Like, first of all, you want a character like that to be like a garnish, right? You want it to be additive to the dish. You don't want it to be the whole dish, because a garnish, too much of a garnish, can ruin a meal, right? And people don't recognize that when they're like, "Oh, I love Chugs," or "Oh, I liked Cammy." Like it's because you got a little bit of them. You got the flavor, right? So I totally understand why they killed her off first and why she was the right person. Because like you said, she's the one we kind of like the most. And so now the stakes have risen.
Yeah.
I had 7 days of this in France, by the way. Talking about garnishes. I had 7 days of that.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I ruined movies for him. Apparently he's watched them differently ever since. So
yeah.
But I mean, I do think that this is similar of like Inheritance with like that pool death and Inheritance was beautiful. Like, just like it was creative. It's using the environment that they're in. I feel like it's very similar with Sorority Row of using where they are, what's related to the characters. Like it plays into who they are and how they're dying. Like it plays into their vices of like needing to scream until the last second until you can't anymore. You're dead, and drinking until you can't drink anymore, physically and literally,
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. I mean, we are always trying to think that way. And I do think the fact that Tammy goes while just before promoting her lifestyle brand on social media, it's like she's in that setting only because of who she is, right?
Yeah.
And so the kind of debate about how she died is like we kind of set up that she might have a little bit of a drinking problem too. Mm-hmm. And so characters are like, did something kill her or did she slip and fall? And it creates kind of a divide between them to argue about, but it's all character based. And so, yeah, no, I thank you for saying that I hadn't even thought about the analogousness of those two kills until now. So maybe in a weird way, Sorority Row influenced me when writing The Inheritance.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Also, I also want to say, like, this movie kind of came out at a time when we were starting to get more of those 80s slasher remakes, because I want to say I think like the remake of Prom Night came out around this time, and it was all kind of like fitting into that of them trying to make a resurgence of slashers that just
it was all in the wake of Rob Zombie's Halloween remake, right? That was 2007, right? And then I think we got the Black Christmas remake right after that, and then Prom Night, and then this, and so but I think it might have almost like this weirdly like hit the end of that wave. And it really wasn't until Blumhouse came along with Paranormal Activity, and I mean, actually, Paranormal Activity was the same year. So that, and you know what, that might have been the thing that took the thunder away from this, because I think they were both released that fall. So I mean, that was such a sensation when that happened. And then I think Insidious cemented that kind of Blumhouse era a year or two later, and away we went from slashers for a while until Halloween again.
And now we live in the age of Terrifier, where we're just going completely slasher.
Absolutely. I made a really dumb joke on social media today because I realized that Terrifier sounds a lot like tariff.
Oh no! God damn it.
Like Terrifier.
Is it just going to be Art in a blonde wig?
I do love a good pun.
Should be.
Ugh.
The plot of Terrifier 4.
Oh God, I haven't even seen 3.
Terrifier 4, Art of the Deal.
Oh, son of a bitch. We're ending this call now.
Goodbye.
God damn it.
We got 7 days of this in France.
Yeah. Oh my God, there was like at least 3 puns a day.
How did everyone else put up with
You're
you?
welcome.
Put up with me or put up with him?
I mean, I don't know how you
Probably me.
With.
There was a lot of wine in France.
There was a lot of wine. It was plentiful. So food was good. The wine was good.
Yeah.
It helps.
Oh my God.
I have a theory about this kill that I'm just thinking about now, is that Chugs is like really the only one of the sorority girls that doesn't really have anything. There's nothing like threatening her. Like she's the only one without anything on the line. Like every other character, they're vulnerable in some way, and she doesn't really have any vulnerabilities. Like she's going around just doing whatever she wants, and to see her die first, it doesn't really affect you're under like it doesn't really emotionally affect you, frankly. Like all the other characters. I mean, like I felt bad for a lot of the other characters, even the bitchy one, you know, because she had stuff on the line. Like she was a bitch, but there was a reason for that, and it's because she was always she was in a position where she was trying to like date the sender's son, and there was a lot on top of her, which is, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think her death is also pretty brutal in my opinion. Even though it happened a lot more quickly and it wasn't as like it wasn't like almost like a classic, you know, like slasher scene where the entire scene is the kill. It was like a part of like the climax. So I think that's why the Chug's death really just resonates the most. Well, other than the technical aspects, is the fact that the character involved, it's kind of like she's like kind of like the comic relief, and it's fun to see her die in a weird way, you know.
Well, there's definitely an interesting narrative thing that it creates because you're right. She is the one who maybe feels the least tied to the rest of the plot, which is why it makes sense to remove her from the story earlier on. Which is honestly getting back to the inheritance. That was something we had conversations about Cammy with too. Was she was the character who was kind of the middle ground for the rest of the siblings. So if we removed that Jenga block, it causes all the other things to come tumbling against each other. And so sometimes it makes sense to take that piece off the board, so that you can focus more on the real meat of the drama. The other thing it does is it creates a bit of confusion around the natural red herring killer, which is everyone thinks it's her brother. And so would her brother kill her? Would he not? Like there creates more mystery around who that is and casts some doubt as to whether it is or isn't him. So there's a lot of kind of not only does it let you focus more on the relationships that are going to be more combative and dramatic moving forward, it also creates an air of mystery around the killer too. So it makes a lot of sense for why her in that part of the script and movie.
But I think going back to the idea of like, you know, she had nothing on the line, but I think she was the definition of what the fuck do I do after college? Like she went to college and got an addiction problem versus like anything else. And I think that hits more on the vices than anything else. That like, you know, she didn't die of alcohol poisoning or an OD, but it definitely played a part into it. So I think more or less of like her line, like the most unfocused of them all, like a lot of people who go to college don't know what they're going to do afterwards, you know. And I think she kind of represented that side of, I guess, like that college life and sorority life, maybe.
Crash out.
Is that what they called them? Crash outs?
Oh no, that's just what we do it now. Back then it was just college.
Oh.
It's like for like just speaking of like parties that I went to at sororities and fraternities, you walk in the door, of course there's beer everywhere, keg stands, they're continuously getting delivered. I wasn't the biggest fan of beer, so I would just have a book bag full of my own alcohol, and people would be like, yeah, let me get some of that too. So it's like no matter what, it's just a party until the cops shut it down. And can't say everything about it because it's like Vegas and, you know, legalities. This is going on the internet.
Yeah. That's fair.
I think we've all known at least one or two chugs of those of us who, you know, went to college.
I don't think you had to go to college to know what chugs.
I didn't go to college. I knew plenty of them.
Yeah.
And that's why she's such a great character to draw you in with.
Oh yeah.
And she went out the way that she wanted to.
I don't know about that. Jesus Christ.
You live by the bottle. You live by the bottle. You die by the
Die by
bottle.
the
That's just
bottle.
how it is.
Yeah. There
I
you
don't know.
go.
Well, I mean, like, I'm curious. Like, if she's dying by her vice, like, how would you guys die? What would be your vices that you would all die from?
Ooh.
God, death by cookies. I don't know. Like crushed by a giant chocolate chip cookie.
All right, yeah, let's go down the line. Okay, death by cookie, Jess. What would the way you want to go out be? Your vices.
I would want to go
Cookie
out.
sounds like a fantastic way to go.
Well, that's the difference of how you want to go out versus what's your vice. That's
All right, fine. The vice, Jess. What would be your vice to go out on?
You got to admit a vice.
I know. Like, I would probably go out on something absolutely stupid. Like, any Final Destination kill would get me. Literally any one of them.
All right, Jill. How about you?
I think between working to death and working in multiple bakeries, I'd probably have like a hocus pocus death where I'd like die in the oven.
Yeah, that sounds right. There you go.
How about you, Chris?
I kind of picture like the Raiders of the Lost Ark death where they all open up the ark, but instead it's just like some like horrible thing I'm watching on TV, or I see something so goddamn stupid that my face just melts. that would be a way to I think, yeah.
All right, Josh.
Something simple as, because this has almost happened. I would drop a bong in the glass and I would slip and just fall and bust my head.
Oh no.
Like your Final Destination for smokers.
Yeah. Death by bong.
Oh man, I think
Brandon, what would you do?
for me it'll definitely be heart explosion from the amount of caffeine that I take. Like the amount of coffee and energy drinks that I consume, surprised it hasn't happened yet, or a caffeine overdose. Probably be for me. Just one day, just like my fucking blood vessels in my eyes will pop and I'll just fall over.
I feel like you'd experience the like the slow motion right before it happens, and everything's like super beautiful and angelic, and then just like
Yeah, I would just be fried. Just 100 cups of coffee. I'll just be like fried 100 cups of coffee.
Exactly.
No, you're gonna get an energy drink like the one we used to have that was just like too much. You're gonna have one last energy drink that's too much and just pushes you over the edge.
Yeah, that'll be the last. That'll be
Original
my
Four
final part.
Loko.
Oh,
No, what was the one that we had when we were younger? It was like Nas or something.
Nas.
The one that was
Yeah.
like we drank and we're like, this is too much. Like,
That shit almost gave me a heart attack. Designed to look like race car fuel.
Yes.
Really?
What it was.
I remember.
Ugh. Don't
No.
recommend. All right, we can use that vice as a way to start winding down, because since we talked about our deaths and what will kill us in our way, so just kind of final thoughts we want to kind of do here. So Jess, starting with you, what is your final thoughts on this kill?
It's a great kill. An enjoyable movie. I like the kill itself. It just, again, gives you such a visceral physical reaction. Gives me the chills when I see it. But so I think it was a good pick.
Jill?
I loved it. I mean, I'm definitely going to go back and rewatch some of the influences and see how it's influenced other movies like past that. It's great. I loved it.
Chris?
Beautiful, just like textbook perfect example of how to do a slasher kill. I expected it. I knew it was coming. Like, it played on my expectations, but it still did not. It didn't disappoint. Like, it hit everything. I don't know. I'm babbling here, but everything about it was just so elegant. Like, it was maybe the most elegant death scene I've ever seen.
Josh?
I know that this death is going to stand the test of time simply because it's already spanned multiple generations and traumatized me. So, great kill. Welcome to Earth. I loved it.
Yeah, I think ditto all around. I think I think it's definitely a staple for a horror kill. I think it was well executed. I think it was a well written kill. I think it was just perfectly executed in terms of just shooting and filming. It doesn't hang on it too long, but it hangs on it just enough to where you get every aspect of what you need with it. So yeah, it's fantastic. And Joe, since you picked it, we're going to end on you. What are your final thoughts?
Look, this kill has stuck with me now for almost 16 years. It was so memorable that I was able to pull it out of my butt when I met the screenwriters and it bridged an instant connection with them. So I'm just so happy to hear that you guys responded to it so well, because it's one that I've always loved. And like I said, don't have a lot of kills in movies that have stayed with me quite like this one. And I really do think it's because it's just such a well-written thematic kill mixed with just great execution. Execution. On that note.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening, whether you're listening to it on Spotify or watching it on YouTube. Thank you to my cohorts here who deal with this with me every other week as we put it out. Thank you, Joe, for taking the time out and joining us and being a part of this with us. And yeah, with that, we'll see everybody with a new episode soon. So thank you for joining us.